Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Moses. I do educational content here on this channel for English language learners, specifically those who are interested in business English. With that, let's get started with today's video. Stop focusing on tests. You heard me right. You guys are probably thinking, what? Are you crazy? Tests are so important, right? Like, oh my God, I have to pass this test. If I don't pass this test, I can't graduate. I can't move on in my life. Yes, tests are important, but when you're learning a language, they are not the most important thing. You shouldn't be only focusing on passing a test. Now, let me explain why. So, one reason is that when you're focusing on a test, you're focusing on passing the test. You're not focusing on actually learning the language. And I have a great example of this. When I worked for a private language school many years ago, there would be children younger than 10 years old, and they would be studying English at a level that is way too advanced for them. Maybe grade 12, if not first year university level. But their parents kept pushing their child or their children to level up. Oh, you got to go higher and higher. You got to pass this test. Okay, next test, next test. And it was not about learning English. It was just simply about passing the test. And surprisingly, you wouldn't think it, but some of these children actually passed the exams, actually passed these tests and got a certificate, this special paper saying, oh, congratulations, you passed this level. For example, in Japan, the Eiken exam, Eiken grade 2, which is pretty high. And the problem is these students are not at that level at all. They learned how to pass a test. They did not learn the language. They learned how to pass it. That level of English, they cannot speak at that level. They cannot write at that level. All they did was memorize a bunch of vocabulary, put it on a piece of paper, and also memorize a specific format of writing and put it on a piece of paper. That is not real learning. That is passing a test. So let's get that straight. Passing a test and learning a language, they're not always together. You can pass a test but not really know the language very well. You just memorized vocabulary. Sorry, I'm repeating myself. Let's go to the next point. The next point, point number 2, is people can lose motivation very easily. So classic example, a really good example, is if you're studying English and you take a test and you fail the test, or your score is lower than what you wanted, you could lose your motivation to study English. And this is a huge issue, okay? Because when you're studying a language, it's a lifetime process. You're going to be studying a language till you die. I'm still learning the English language. I still learn new vocabulary. And I'm a native English speaker. I've been, learning English since I was a baby, right? So the problem with tests is if you only focus on the test, and you only think that's the only important thing, when you fail, you feel so sad, upset, frustrated, and you just want to give up. If you fail a test, it's okay. Remember that. Don't focus on the test being the most important thing about learning a language. Focus on the small little steps of improvement that you are making that maybe you don't even notice while you're learning English. Okay. And this goes to my last point here, is that learning a language takes a long time. And I've already mentioned this before. It's a lifetime journey. Just because you passed a test doesn't mean you're finished, right? If you pass a test, that's great, but that's only one little tiny dot in this long journey of life where you're going to be continually learning English. So, and in fact, actually, if you pass a test and you think, oh, I passed the test, I don't need to study English anymore, I don't need to, practice it or use it or communicate with it anymore, I'm done. You're going to forget English. You're going to forget, and all of that hard work is going to slowly go to waste. If you don't use it, you lose it. So remember, a test is only one specific type of measurement of your language skill at a very specific time. And I have one more bonus point to talk about. Some tests are better than others. And I won't go into detail about talking about the different types of English tests that are available, such as IELTS, TOEIC, Aiken. I won't go into details about those different tests in this video. But what I do want to mention is that, for example, the Aiken test, which is a standardized English test in Japan, this test doesn't really focus on speaking very well. And because of that, a lot of students pass this exam, but they cannot speak very well. So they focus on what the test focuses on. So the test focuses on mostly grammar and vocabulary and listening, a lot of input skills. But it doesn't really focus on the output skills in the language, which is writing and speaking. So when you are focusing on a test, be careful which test you're focusing on. If you're focusing on a test that only focuses on input, then you will be improving your input skills in the language, in English. But you won't be improving your output skills, which is speaking and writing. This is a huge problem in Japan, a huge problem. There's too much focus on input skills, and the tests are all focusing on input skills. And in Japan, the educational culture focuses very much on tests. You need to do a test to get into junior high school. You need to do a test, an entrance exam when you go into high school as well as university. So tests are very important in Japan. And unfortunately, a lot of the English tests that they do not focus on the output skills of speaking and writing. With that, I just want to say thank you guys for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the like button. And if you want to see more videos like this one, click the subscribe button below, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye-bye.